Imagine this. It's Christmas Eve, 2024. The air smells of pine and roasted turkey, and the dining room glows under the soft flicker of candles. My family's gathered around the long oak table, the one I've polished every holiday for 30 years. Laughter bounces off the walls. My grandkids are giggling, chasing each other with tinsel in their hair. And me, I'm sitting at the head of the table, smiling, trying to soak it all in. But then, she speaks, my daughter-in-law. Rachel, her voice cuts through the chatter like a knife. "Oh, Margaret," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You really don't need to keep hosting these dinners. Well, it's getting a bit much for you, isn't it?" She pauses, smirking, her wine glass tilted in her hand. "I mean, look at this spread. It's sweet. But maybe it's time to let someone else take over. Someone who can actually keep up." The room goes quiet. Forks hover over plates. My son, David, stares at his mashed potatoes, not saying a word. My grandkids, Lily, 8, and Max, 11, freeze. Their eyes darting between me and their mom. I feel it, that hot sting in my chest, like someone's poured boiling water over my heart. My hands tremble under the table, but I keep them folded, hidden. I force a smile, because that's what I do. I always smile. Rachel leans back in her chair, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the table. "No offense." "Margaret," she adds, her tone dripping with anything but sincerity. "But you're not exactly young anymore. We wouldn't want you to overdo it," she laughs, a sharp, brittle sound. "And a few others, my cousin Linda." My nephew chuckle along, nervously. The rest just look away. The air feels thick, suffocating, like I'm drowning in their silence. I sit there, my throat tight, my face burning, 62 years old, and I'm being laughed at in my own home. The home I paid for, every brick, every shingle, with years of overtime and skipped vacations. The home where I raised David, where I rocked Lily to sleep when Rachel was too tired to be a mother. And now, this. Mocked, dismissed, like I'm some frail old woman who doesn't belong at her own table. I glance at Lily. Her small face is pale, her eyes wide, locked on me. She's clutching her napkin, twisting it in her tiny hands. She doesn't laugh, she doesn't look away. And in that moment, I feel it a crack, deep inside, like something's breaking loose. But I don't let it show. Not yet. "You know," I say, my voice steady. Softer than it has any right to be. I think I'll step out for some air. I push my chair back, the scrape of wood against the floor louder than it should be. Rachel raises an eyebrow, smirking again, like she's won something. David finally looks up. But he doesn't speak. No one does. I walk to the front door, my steps slow, deliberate. The laughter picks up behind me, Rachel's voice leading the charge. "See, she knows I'm right," she says, and someone else murmurs agreement. I don't turn back. I slip on my coat, step into the cold December night, and close the door. The snow crunches under my boots, and the stars glitter above, sharp and clear. I stand there, alone, my breath clouding in the air, and I make a decision. Rachel thinks she's humiliated me. She thinks she's pushed me out, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know about the college fund I've been building for her daughter, my Lily, since the day she was born. She doesn't know I hold the keys to her future, and she doesn't know... I'm done smiling. What would you do if someone mocked you in front of everyone you love? Would you stay silent? Or would you fight back? Stick with me. Because this story's just beginning, and trust me, you won't believe what happens next. Standing in the snow that Christmas Eve, my coat pulled tight against the chill. I couldn't shake the sting of Rachel's words. They echoed in my mind, sharp as the winter wind. But as I stood there, alone under the stars, my thoughts drifted back to the years that built me. Back to the woman I was before this house, this family, this pain. Let me take you there. Let me show you why her words cut so deep. It was 1989. I was 30. A single mother with a 5-year-old David clinging to my hand. My husband, Tom, was gone, not dead. Not yet. But lost to a sickness that crept into his lungs and never let go. Emphysema. The doctors called it. Each breath he took was a battle, and I fought it with him. I worked 2 jobs, days at a diner. Nights typing invoices for a trucking company. My hands smelled of coffee and ink. My eyes burned from sleepless nights. But I kept going. For David. For Tom. For the life we swore we'd build. Our apartment was small, a 1-bedroom walk-up with peeling paint and a radiator that hissed more than it heated. I slept on a pull-out couch so David could have the bed. Every night, I'd tuck him in, his little face half buried in a pillow. "Mom," he'd whisper, his voice so soft. "When I grow up, I'll take care of you, I promise." I'd smile, kiss his forehead, and believe him, because back then, I had to believe in something. Money was tight. No, tight doesn't cover it. It was a noose. Tom's medical bills piled up faster than I could pay them. Oxygen tanks, hospital stays, prescriptions they ate every dime. I sold my mother's pearl necklace, the one she wore at her wedding. I sold my old guitar, the one I played in college, dreaming of open mic nights. I let go of pieces of myself, bit by bit, to keep us afloat. And yet, even then, I never asked for help. Not from family, not from friends. I carried it all, because that's what you do when you love someone. Tom passed in 92. David was 8. I held him as he cried, his small body shaking against mine. We buried Tom on a gray November day, the ground cold and hard. After the funeral, I went back to work. No time to grieve. David needed school clothes. The rent was due. Life didn't stop. So neither did I. Years rolled on. I saved what I could, scraping together pennies for David's future. I got him through high school, then college, working overtime to cover what his scholarships didn't. He studied business, graduated with a handshake and a smile. "I'll make you proud, Mom," he said. And I believed him. Again, I always believed him. When David married Rachel in 2008, I thought, maybe now I could rest. Rachel was bright, ambitious, a marketing exec with a sharp smile. I welcomed her, opened my home, my heart, when Lily was born. Oh, my heart broke open all over again. That tiny girl. With her big eyes and soft curls, she was my world. I rocked her to sleep when Rachel worked late, sang her lullabies Tom used to hum. I started a college fund for her, a 529 plan, tucking away every spare dollar. It wasn't much at first, but it grew. 20,000, 30, 40. I never told Rachel. It was my gift to Lily. My way of saying, you'll have a future I never did. Max came along 2 years later, and I loved him just as fiercely. But Lily? She was special. She'd sit on my lap, her little hands tracing the lines on my face. "Grandma," she'd say, "tell me about when you were brave." I'd laugh. Tell her stories of late nights at the diner, of carrying David through snowstorms to school. I taught her to plant tulips in my garden, to say thank you and mean it. I thought, maybe I was building something that would last. This house, the one Rachel mocked me in. I bought in 2000, paid it off in 15 years, every mortgage check a victory. It's mine, free and clear, the deed in my name. I never told David or Rachel how much it cost me, not just money, but years of skipped vacations, mended clothes, meals of rice and beans. They never asked. And yet, I held on to hope. Hope that David remembered his promise. Hope that Rachel would see me as more than an old woman in their way. But hope, it's a fragile thing. I gave them everything, my youth, my dreams, my heart. I thought it would bind us. I thought it would matter. Only later, standing in that snow, did I start to see, maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe love isn't enough when the people you love stop seeing you. The snow from that Christmas Eve melted away, but the chill in my heart lingered. I went back inside that night, forced a smile, and carried on. That's what I'd always done, carried on. But the weeks that followed, they weren't just hard, they were crushing. Let me take you there. To the moments that pushed me to the edge, to the point where even my silence couldn't hold the pain anymore. It started small, like it always does. January rolled in, gray and heavy. David and Rachel were planning to renovate the house, my house, the one I'd paid off with decades of sweat. They didn't ask me, not once. I'd come home from the grocery store, arms full of bags, and find them at the kitchen table. Blueprints spread out, Rachel's pen circling my living room. "We're thinking open concept," she'd say, not looking up. "It's modern. You wouldn't get it." David would nod, his eyes on his phone. I'd stand there, my hands still cold from the car, and feel invisible. I tried to speak up once. "This house," I said, my voice soft. "It's got history. Maybe we could keep the fireplace." Rachel laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Margaret, please. Fireplaces are outdated. We're not living in the 80s. David didn't look at me, he just muttered, "Yeah. Mom, let Rachel handle it." And that was that. My home. My memories. Tom's old armchair, the wall where David marked his height as a boy erased without a word. It wasn't just the house, it was everything. Family dinners became Rachel's stage. She'd host, her voice bright, directing everyone to their seats. I'd end up at the corner of the table, next to the kids, passing plates while she held court. Once, I spent an hour in the kitchen, washing dishes while they laughed in the dining room. Max, my 11-year-old grandson, poked his head in. "Why are you always cleaning?" "Grandma," he asked, not unkindly, but it stung. I smiled, ruffled his hair. "Someone's gotta do it," I said. But inside, I was breaking. Then came Lily, my Lily, the little girl who used to curl up in my lap. Her eyes wide as I told her stories. She was 8 now, growing fast. Her world shaped by Rachel's sharp edges. One Sunday, I was helping her with a school project, gluing construction paper at the dining table. Rachel walked in, her heels clicking. "Lily, honey," she said, "you don't need Margaret's help. I've got a tutor lined up, someone qualified." Lily looked down, her small hands still. Then she turned to me, her voice small but clear. "Mom says you don't know this stuff. Margaret, not Grandma, just Margaret." I froze. My heart twisted, a slow, aching turn. I forced a smile, patted her hand. "That's okay, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady. But when she ran off, I sat there, staring at the half-finished project, the glue stick still in my hand. It wasn't her fault. She was just a child, echoing her mother. And yet, it felt like a knife. The one person I thought saw me, the one I'd poured my love into, even she was slipping away. The worst came in February. David and Rachel called a family meeting without me. I found out by accident, overhearing them in the living room while I folded laundry in the hall. Rachel's voice was low, clipped. "We can't keep carrying her. David, she's a burden. This house. Her hovering, it's too much. We need to move forward." David sighed. "I know, but she's my mom." Rachel scoffed. "Then act like it. Get her to sign over the deed. Or maybe a retirement home." My hand stopped, the towel half folded. A retirement home. Me, the woman who'd carried them all. I slipped away, my steps silent, and stood in the backyard, the winter air biting my face. I looked at the garden, the tulips Lily and I planted, now dormant under frost. I felt it then. A weight so heavy it pressed the air from my lungs. I'd given them everything, my youth, my dreams, this house. And now I was a burden, a problem to be solved. The final straw came a week later. I'd taken Lily to the park, just the two of us, like old times. We were swinging, her laughter bright, when Rachel pulled up, her car screeching to a stop. She marched over, her face tight. "Margaret, what are you doing?" she snapped. "I told you. Lily's not your responsibility anymore." Lily's smile faded. She looked at me, then at her mom. "But I wanted to come," she said, her voice small. Rachel ignored her. "You need to stop," she told me, her eyes cold. You're not needed here. She took Lily's hand, pulled her to the car. I stood there, the swing still creaking, empty, that night, alone in my room. I sat on the edge of my bed, my hands clasped tight. I thought of Tom, of David's promises, of Lily's tulips. I thought of the college fund, the house, the years I'd given. And I felt it a shift, deep inside. Enough. I'd been pushed too far. I wasn't angry, not yet, but I was done. Done being silent. Done being invisible. That night, sitting on the edge of my bed. The silence was louder than ever, the sting of Rachel's words at the park. You're not needed here burned in my chest. Lily's small voice calling me Margaret, not Grandma, echoed in my mind. The weight of being called a burden, of being pushed out of my own life. It was too much, but in that darkness, something shifted. A spark, not anger, not yet. Resolve. I'd given everything to this family, my youth, my dreams, my home, and I was done letting them walk over me. It was time to act. Let me take you to the moment everything changed. The next morning, I woke early. The house still quiet. I made coffee, my hands steady for the first time in weeks. I sat at the kitchen table, the one Rachel wanted to tear out, and opened my old address book. My fingers traced the pages until I found the number I needed. Ellen Carter, my lawyer. Ellen had handled the house purchase years ago, drawn up Tom's will. She was sharp, no nonsense, and, most importantly, she knew my story. I dialed her number, my heart pounding but my voice calm. Ellen, I said, I need to make some changes. Can we meet today? She didn't hesitate. Come by at noon. Margaret, we'll sort it out. I spent the morning gathering papers, the deed to the house, still in my name, tucked in a fireproof box. The 529 college fund statements for Lily, now at $52,000, every cent from my savings. And then, the letter. Tom's letter, written a year before he died. I'd kept it in a locked drawer, its edges worn from the times I'd read it alone, in his shaky handwriting. He'd laid out his wishes, the house for me, a trust for David only if he honored his family, and a future for our grandchildren, especially Lily. Protect them. Margaret, he wrote, but protect yourself too. I hadn't looked at it in years, but now, it felt like a lifeline. At Ellen's office, I laid it all out. The Christmas dinner, Rachel's mockery, the way they'd sidelined me, the talk of a retirement home, Lily's words. Ellen listened, her pen tapping softly. Margaret, she said, her eyes steady, you've got options. The house is yours. The fund is yours. And this letter? It's clear intent. What do you want to do? I took a breath, the weight of 30 years behind me. I want to protect Lily's future, I said. But Rachel and David, they need to learn. They don't get to take everything and give nothing back. Ellen nodded, already pulling out forms. We spent hours crafting a plan. The college fund would stay, but I'd redirect it into a trust for Lily. Accessible only when she turned 18, no control for Rachel or David. The house, I'd keep the deed. But I added a clause if I chose. Lily could inherit it directly, bypassing her parents. And Tom's letter? We'd use it to show intent, to prove I wasn't acting out of spite, but honoring my husband's wishes. It was meticulous, legal, airtight, and it was mine. The next step came a week later. At a family dinner Rachel insisted on hosting. She'd invited cousins, neighbors, even my old friend Clara from church. Turning my dining room into her stage, I let her. I sat quietly, passing plates, smiling as she boasted about her renovation plans. David nodded along, as always. Lily sat across from me, her eyes flickering to mine, unsure. Max played with his fork, oblivious. And then I stood. Before dessert, I said. My voice soft but clear. I have something to say. The room stilled. Rachel raised an eyebrow, her smirk faint. I pulled an envelope from my pocket, the one Ellen had prepared. This house, I said, is mine. Paid for with my work, my sacrifices, and this I held up a copy of the college fund statement is Lily's future. Funded by me, not you. Rachel. Not David. Me. Rachel's smile faltered. David shifted, his face pale. I opened the envelope, slid Tom's letter across the table. My husband wanted a family that honors each other, I said. But you've dishonored me. You mocked me, sidelined me, called me a burden. And Lily... My voice caught. But I held her gaze. You're too young to understand, sweetheart, but I've always fought for you. Lily's eyes widened, her hands twisting her napkin, just like Christmas Eve. I turned to Rachel. The college fund is now a trust. Lily gets it when she's 18. You don't touch it. The house stays mine, and I've insured Lily's future in it, not yours. Rachel laughed, nervous. You can't do that, she said. I smiled, calm, steady. I already have. Ellen Carter filed the papers yesterday. Clara, my friend, spoke up, her voice firm. I've known Margaret for decades. She's given you everything. And you. Rachel. You've treated her like dirt, the neighbors murmured, heads nodding. David looked at Rachel, then at me, his mouth open but silent. Lily stood, her small voice trembling. I'm sorry, Grandma, she said. I didn't mean to hurt you. My heart ached, but I nodded. I know, sweetheart. This is for you. Rachel's face twisted, her voice sharp. This is ridiculous. You're just bitter, but the room was against her now. Cousins shook their heads. Clara crossed her arms. I stood tall, my voice steady. I'm not bitter, I said. I'm done letting you erase me. I walked to the door, my steps slow, deliberate, the same as that Christmas night. But this time, I wasn't running, I was standing. The air in the dining room hung heavy after I walked out, Tom's letter still on the table, my words echoing in their ears. I'd stood up, laid bare the truth, and left Rachel and David stunned. That moment wasn't just a stand, it was a line drawn in the sand. I'd given them everything, and they'd given me nothing but disregard. Now, they'd face the consequences, not out of spite, but because justice, it has a way of finding balance. Let me take you through what happened next, when the world they thought they controlled shifted beneath their feet. The days after that dinner were quiet, but not the kind of quiet that soothes. It was tense, like the hush before a storm. Rachel didn't speak to me. She'd storm through the house, her heels clicking, her phone pressed to her ear, talking to anyone who'd listen, friends, her sister, even a lawyer. She can't do this. I heard her hiss one night, pacing the living room. It's our house, our future David, though, was different. He'd look at me across the breakfast table, his eyes searching, but he never found the words. I didn't offer any. I'd said enough. The first real blow came a week later. Ellen, my lawyer, sent official documents to Rachel and David, confirming the changes. The college fund, $52,000, was now a trust for Lily, locked until she turned 18. Rachel had no access, no control. The house remained mine. With a new provision, Lily could inherit it directly if I chose, bypassing her parents. Rachel's renovation plans, her open concept dream, were dead. She'd been counting on selling the house to fund their lifestyle. Maybe a bigger place, a flashier car. Now, that was gone. She stood in the kitchen, clutching the papers, her face pale. You're stealing from us, she said, her voice low, venomous. I looked at her, calm. I'm protecting Lily, I said. Something you never did for me. David tried to mediate, his voice soft, pleading. Mom, can't we talk about this? We didn't mean to hurt you. I set my coffee cup down, the clink loud in the silence. David, I said, you stood by while she mocked me, while she called me a burden. You let her push me out of my own home. I gave you everything, your education, this house, my love, and you gave me silence. His eyes dropped, his hands fidgeting. I'm sorry, he whispered. I nodded, but my heart stayed firm. I know, I said, but sorry doesn't undo years of neglect. I'm giving you freedom now from me. Rachel's world unraveled faster than she expected. Word spread. Clara, my friend from church, told the neighbors how Rachel had treated me, how she'd planned to shove me into a retirement home. Cousins who'd laughed at Christmas stopped returning her calls. At a family barbecue in March, Rachel showed up, her smile forced, but the mood shifted when I arrived. People hugged me, asked about my garden, my health. Rachel stood off to the side, her wine glass untouched, her eyes darting. David stayed close to her, but even he looked lost. Their social circle, the one Rachel had built on charm and ambition, cracked. She wasn't the queen anymore. She was the woman who'd disrespected her family. Lily felt it too, but differently. After her apology at the dinner, she clung to me more. One afternoon, she slipped into my room, her eyes red. "Mom's mad all the time," she said, her voice small. "She says you took everything." I knelt, took her hands. "Lily," I said, "I didn't take. I protected. That college fund, it's for you, for your dreams. This house, it's yours someday, if you want it. I did this because I love you." She nodded, her lip trembling, and hugged me tight. I held her, my heart aching but full. She was still mine, in a way Rachel could never take. Rachel tried one last time. In April, she came to me, her voice softer, calculated. "Margaret," she said, "I overstepped. I'm sorry. Can't we fix this for Lily?" I looked at her, saw the desperation in her eyes, not for me, not for Lily, but for the control she'd lost. I stood, my voice steady. "I gave you everything, Rachel. My home, my time, my trust. You threw it away, now. I'm giving you freedom from me." She blinked, her mouth opening, but no words came. I walked past her, out to my garden. The tulips Lily and I planted just starting to bloom. David and Rachel didn't leave the house. Not yet. But it wasn't theirs anymore, not in the way they'd planned. They lived in my space, under my rules. Rachel's renovations stopped. The blueprints disappeared. David started coming home earlier, helping with dishes, looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time in years. But it was too late for that. I'd drawn my line, and I wasn't crossing back. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was quiet, steady, like the way I'd lived my life. Rachel lost her grip on the future she'd schemed for. David lost the ease of ignoring his choices. And me, I gained something I hadn't felt in years, my own strength. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was Margaret, mother, grandmother, survivor. Spring came softly that year, the kind of spring that feels like a promise. I stood in my garden, the tulips Lily and I planted bursting into color red, yellow, pink, their petals catching the morning light. The house was quieter now, not with tension, but with a stillness I hadn't known in years. Rachel's heels no longer clicked through my halls. David's silences no longer weighed on me. And Lily, she was still here, her laughter drifting from the porch where she read her books. I'd found something new, something I hadn't realized I'd lost myself. Let me take you to the end of this journey, where the pieces finally settled, and I learned what freedom really means. I didn't leave the house. It was mine, after all, every brick, every memory. But I changed it. I painted the living room a soft blue, the color Tom always loved. I kept the fireplace, despite Rachel's plans, and hung a photo of Lily and me above it. Our hands muddy from planting. I started small things, too. A cooking class at the community center, where I learned to make pasta from scratch, laughing with women my age who'd also carried heavy loads. I volunteered at the library, reading to kids who reminded me of David when he was small. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of the woman I'd been, before the sacrifices, before the pain. Lily came over often. She'd sit at my kitchen table, her schoolwork spread out, her questions about the world endless. "Grandma," she said one day, her eyes serious. "Why didn't you give up on me?" I smiled, stirring the soup on the stove. "Because you're worth fighting for," I said, "and because I promised your grandpa I'd protect you." she nodded, her face soft. And I saw it the bond we'd built. Stronger now because it was honest. Rachel didn't stop her visits. She couldn't. Lily wanted to be here, and I'd made sure the law backed that up. David tried to rebuild something. He'd stop by, bring groceries, offer to fix a leaky faucet. I let him, but I kept my distance. Not out of anger, but because I needed space to heal. Rachel was different. She moved through life with less swagger now. Her social media posts quieter, her confidence dimmed. I didn't wish her pain. I just wanted her to understand what she'd thrown away. Sometimes. I'd catch her watching me from her car when she dropped Lily off, her face unreadable. I didn't wave. I didn't need to. I thought a lot about freedom that spring. Not the kind that comes from running away, but the kind that grows when you stand your ground. I'd spent decades giving my time, my heart, my dreams thinking it would tie my family to me, but it didn't. What tied me to myself was knowing my worth, drawing that line, saying, enough. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was Margaret, whole and unbroken. For those of you watching, maybe you felt it too that moment when you realize you deserve more than being pushed aside. Maybe you've given everything to someone, only to be overlooked. I want you to know, you're not alone. Your worth isn't in what you give away, but in who you are. If you've ever had to fight to be seen, to be heard, drop a comment below, share your story. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, pass it along. Let them know they're worth fighting for, too. If you've been with me this far, hit that subscribe button. It's a small way to keep these stories alive. I'm still here, in my house, my garden, my life. The tulips will bloom again next year, and I'll be here to see them. Not because I have to be, but because I choose to be.